Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Swedish on the home side, half American on the away side. Both breweries have featured on the channel before, albeit the Swedish brewery far more frequently than the American one. And I've actually even reviewed a number of collaborations that these guys have done together before. But the beer that we have today is basically a new and amped up version of one that could be considered a little bit of a Swedish sour classic, if you like. So I have to say I'm really curious to see how this one turns out. Fingers crossed it's as good, if not better, than the original, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well then. Very curious about this one, like I said. So for this review then, for the Swedish side of things, for the home side, we are going to head up towards Gothenburg once again. Göteborg, as you would say in Swedish, the Swedish craft beer capital up there on the west coast. Got to get that Gothenburg catchphrase in when we're reviewing Gothenburg beers because it's channel tradition, as you'll know. But we're going to go out to the east of the city once again to Landvetter, very close to the airport, and that means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from the wonderful Dugges Brewery. So this particular beer is a collaboration with Stillwater Artisinal, who they're a gypsy brewery over in the States. They've got a bar now in New York from what I understand, but the brewery kind of originates in Baltimore in Maryland. But this one is the Tropic Tropic Thunder. It comes in at 8% ABV. It's an Imperial sour fruit ale, or Imperial fruit sour, I guess we could also say. It's got mango, passion fruit and peach in it, and as the name suggests, this one is basically a kind of amped up version of the original Tropic Thunder, which is kind of the cult classic Swedish craft beer, actually. These kind of cult classic Swedish sour craft beer, I should say. So yeah, that's one that I would highly recommend that you try if you get the chance. But we got this beer here in Sweden as part of the Tillfällig sortiment through Systembolaget on the 16th of March 2021, and when I saw it I knew that I had to have this one. So yeah, definitely nice to return to Dugges once again. I've got another 3 beers that I need to review from these guys this month, so I need to get cracking with those. 2 West Coast IPAs and then an orange sour beer that was released as part of the locale in February. So yeah, you'll see those reviews appearing pretty soon, but this is one that I wanted to try and get the review out there. So yeah, really looking forward to this. Nice to return to Dugges once again, and always cool to try something interesting from Stillwater Artisinal as well. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. As always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about both the breweries here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery websites and the links to my other reviews that I've done, both from Dugges Brewery and from Stillwater Artisinal. You will no doubt see more added to both of those lists in the fairly near future, although it has been a little while since I've done a dedicated review to Stillwater Artisinal. Hopefully I can find some of their own beers to review at some stage soon. I'm not sure exactly where to get them, in honesty, because you just don't see them here in Sweden too much anymore. But anyway, there's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Dugges Brewery then, on to my brewery notes. We'll start off with the home brewery, as we always do in collaborations. So Dugges Brewery, as I've told you before, are based in Landvetter on the eastern outskirts of Gothenburg on the west coast of Sweden. But the brewery was established back in 2005 in Mölndal, to the south of the city, by Mikael Engström Dugge. A few years previously, Mikael had actually met an Englishman who was selling second-hand breweries, and this really got him thinking about brewing his own beer. So he studied the admittedly very complex Swedish alcohol laws, he visited various other breweries around the country, and he started buying up equipment to put together his own brewery, and this culminated with the opening of their original facility in Mölndal back in 2005. Over the following years they continued to expand, but by 2009 they'd outgrown this original premises, and so the following year they moved up to Landvetter to the northeast in 2010. So the older brewery had a capacity at maximum of 1,500 hectolitres of beer per year. However, the new brewery started with a capacity of 8,000 hectolitres per year, and this has been more than doubled in recent years. Over the years, this brewery have become well known for fruit and sour beers. As I said, the Tropic Thunder is kind of one of the cult classic Swedish sour beers, and I would recommend that you check it out. They've been doing a lot of New England hazy IPAs and lots of different IPA series these days. The Fresh, the Crush, are the New Englands. They've got the Bite series as well, which is the West Coast series of IPAs. They've also got the Cloudy series, I think it's called, which is the sort of wheat beer series as well. And then they've got their Future series. They've been investing in a lot in their barrel aging program as well. So there's lots of different things that have come out from Dugges in recent times. They're diversifying their styles a little bit as well, which I think is really interesting. And another noteworthy point about this brewery is that they're also one of the co-owners of the two Brewers beer bars in Gothenburg. So you can go in there and you can get lots of different Dugges beers that you wouldn't find in other places. But the other owners of this brewery would be All In Brewing. They're involved in that as well, and I think, but I'm not 100% sure, Electric Nurse is also involved in that as well. Electric Nurse is run by Mikael Dugges' daughter Ida along with her husband John. So yeah, they do some very good beers as well, and I would recommend that you check them out. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Dugges Brewery for the moment. One of my favourite Swedish breweries, because they just do lots of really good beer. Pretty much anything these guys do will be good, I would recommend. So just pick a style of beer that you enjoy from these guys and take a look at it. You're pretty much guaranteed a good quality beer from Dugges Brewery. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about them for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's go on to the American side of things, Stillwater Artisinal. So as I kind of mentioned to you earlier on, these guys are a gypsy brewery, but it's the venture of the gypsy brewer Brian Stillwater Strumke, who is a native of Baltimore and Maryland over in the eastern United States, and he's a former world-renowned techno DJ and producer, and he quickly made a name for himself amongst homebrewing communities for really unusual brewing methods and using different adjuncts like herbs and spices and wild yeasts and other things. So he really built a kind of cult following and a reputation for himself in the early days of craft beer, and that still holds to this day. But he started homebrewing in his backyard years ago, and he's been rated, when he was first started, he was rated as one of the best newcomers by Rate Beer, and he has remained high in the top 100 breweries in the world ever since, from what I understand. But he now travels the world doing lots of different collaboration brews with various brewers from well-known breweries, but they kind of set down roots a little bit more in 2018. They announced that they had some plans to open up their own brewery in Greenport in Brooklyn, where they were going to invest heavily to create a sour beer fermentation brewery and also a barrel aging project, but they're going to have a bar in there as well, from what I understand. The last time when I wrote these notes before, the crowdfunding investment was still underway, and this place is going to be called Production. But Brian says it's not going to distract from the gypsy brewing work he does, but it's rather intended to be a kind of tap room and sort of pilot batch brewery, if you like. So it's going to be just a little kind of brew pub almost. So when I make it out to the States, I need to check and see whether it will be open at that time. From what I understand, the COVID situation has delayed a good bit of the work that's been going on there, but hopefully that will be open by the time I go out to the States in June and July. So yeah, that should be pretty cool. But that's all I can really tell you about Stillwater Artisinal for the moment. As of March 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, they've apparently produced 130 different kinds of beer, and like I said, most of these beers tend to be sour beers with lots of different adjuncts and things like that, so they're definitely worth checking out if you get the chance, and hopefully we can review a few more, or make a few more dedicated beer reviews to Stillwater Artisinal at some point in the near future. It's been a long time actually since I've had a beer where they've been the primary brewer, if you like. But yeah, that's, as I say, all I can really tell you about them. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all those different things that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and have a taste of this beer then. Very curious to see what this one has in store for us. So yeah, as you can see, the artwork on this one is kind of typical. for what you would expect of Dugas Brewery, quite straightforward. There you can see on the side there the symbols for Dugas Brewery and also Stillwater. Not sure how well the camera is focusing on that, but it says on the side here it's double delicious. Like I said to you at the start of the video, this one is an 8% Imperial Fruit Sour Ale. It's got mango, passion fruit and peach in it, and it says on the side here, this is Tropic Tropic. Tropic Tropic Thunder Thunder is a joint effort with nomadic brewer Brian Strumke of Stillwater. We brewed a nice sour ale with lactobacillus and let it ferment with plentiful mango, passion fruit and peach. Then we got the idea to just double everything up, because more is more, right? Echo, echo, echo. So yeah, this I think should be quite nice. Oh, I think I've told you lies. I told you this one was 8%. It's actually 9%. My bad, guys. Yeah, 9% Imperial Sour, this one. So yeah, not often that I have an Imperial Sour, come to think of it. So this one should hopefully be quite nice. But let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. I'm very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So yeah, 330ml bottle, this one, and I think I paid about 40 or 45 Swedish kroners for it. So that translates to roughly €4.50, about £4 sterling, and then I guess about $5.25 American, just for those of you watching in different parts of the world. You can see the carbonation in this is quite active as we open it up. Is there any sediment left in the bottom? No. And I'll tell you, oh, that aroma just out of the bottle, that's beautiful, but we'll come to that in a little bit. Oh, it looks very, very nice. So yeah, as you could see, when we poured the beer, it had about a quarter finger of a frothy, I would have said cream coloured head, but that's just gone away to be absolutely nothing apart from a little thin layer, just a little thin ring around the edge of the glass. But yeah, that can sometimes happen with sour beers, of course. That will sometimes happen, especially if they're higher in alcohol. So yeah, this looks very, very nice, I have to say. So as you can see, it's poured a lovely, what would we say, it's actually quite an amber colour. It actually is a little bit of a kind of rich amber colour, to be honest with you. But yeah, there's one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and you can still see a few little bubbles creeping up towards the bottom of the head there. But yeah, it's got a bit of natural haze to it, this beer. Does it say what it has in the malt base? Is this, it smelled like it had a little bit of wheat and stuff in it. No, apparently just barley malt in this one. So just regular malt in this, apparently. So yeah, pretty cool. But yeah, it looks very, very nice, this one. I think it is about the same colour as the original Tropic Thunder. I think the original Tropic Thunder was roughly the same as this. But remember, when it comes to these beers, the colour of your beer is dependent on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. Two, the length of your wort boil, and then when it comes to sour beers and fruit beers and stuff like this, the type of fruit that you add is going to play a role, and you know, if you barrel age it, that is obviously going to affect the colour as well. But yeah, this one looks like a lovely kind of rich amber colour. It's got a bit of natural haze to it as well, but other than that, I don't think there's too much to say about the appearance of this one. It is kind of what you'd expect when it's a sour with passion fruit, mango and peach in it. So yeah, not surprised about this. But yeah, looks very, very nice. Let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. I'm really curious about this beer. That does smell beautiful. It smells very, very nice. One of the things that I really love about these sour beers, quite a lot of them, is I find that a lot of the modern sours have very straight shooting aromas, and this is another one that kind of follows this trend. A lot of these big kind of fruity sours that you get these days have quite straight shooting aromas, but they're just lovely. You know, that you don't need to be complex for something to smell good, and that smells really damn good actually. So yeah, I have to say I'm very, very impressed with this one. So thumbs up to Dugas for the aroma here. That's absolutely beautiful. So where do we start with this one? So the beer, to me, when I first smelt it, I thought it had a little bit of wheat in it, because it has the malty backbone to this one. You can get a little bit of breadiness out of it, but it also has a little bit of that kind of yogurty sort of thing. And I don't know if it's just the way that lactobacillus and Brettanomyces or whatever react with some of the malty side of things, because your yeast, remember, your yeast plays a huge, huge role in beer, and sour beers kind of embody that whole principle. But for me, this beer, you can smell the soft white bready sort of thing in there. I would have guessed that this beer had a little bit of oat and wheat in it, because it does have a bit of that really just smooth yogurty thing that you might expect of, say, a Berliner Weisse or something like that. It does have a little bit of that, but this one is obviously not a Berliner Weisse because it doesn't have wheat or oats or anything listed in the aroma or in the ingredients list. Brain is not working, guys. That's terrible. Did this one have hops in it as well? This is another thing. I always think, yeah, no hops in this one, no humle. So yeah, the one thing that's quite interesting with beers like this as well is that a lot of these modern sour beers, don't use hops. There's a brewery back home in Scotland called Vault City, and they, how would you say, they do these big kind of sweet sours, but they put hops in them, and I think this just adds another level of complexity to the beers. But quite a lot of the modern sour beers over here in Sweden, if you like, they don't use hops, which I find quite interesting, but they still smell absolutely lovely. But yeah, malt base of this one is, yeah, soft white bread, bit of a kind of yogurty, kind of petit filou type thing in there, but more of a tropical yogurt, obviously, because of the fruits that are in this. But yeah, there's one or two tiny little woody undertones to the beer, but other than that, there's not too much to report. On the malty side of things with this one, again, as I say, these beers tend to be incredibly straight shooting in terms of aroma, but they are just lovely, and this one shows that once again. But yeah, in terms of green components and stuff like that, like I said, this beer does not have hops in it, but you still get the impression that there's a bit of grassiness to this one. There really is a little bit of that light kind of green grassy sort of quality to this beer. So if I was smelling it, I don't know if I would guess whether there's hops or not in it, because it's a bit too smooth to have the hops. It doesn't come across as like bitter or kind of dry in that sense. It actually just comes across as being very, very smooth actually. So yeah, the aroma of this beer, I think, works. The aroma of this beer works just very, very nicely on the green side of things too, even though it doesn't really have a proper green component, if you like. But yeah, a little bit of a grassy vibe from this beer, I would say. On the fruity side of things, it is kind of what you'd expect. The peach has a good bit of pungency to it, and you can feel that kind of taking the lead on the nose and sort of juicing everything up. You can smell the smoothness of the mango under there, and I would suspect that the mango is one of the ones that's giving you that sort of yogurty impression, if you like. And then you've also got a nice bit of the more kind of powerful passion fruit in there as well. You can smell that slight pungency, that slightly more citrusy quality of the passion fruit and things too. But yeah, definitely some really nice kind of, I would say definitely some really nice peachy, like peachy sharpness in the beer, some soft, smooth mango, and then a little bit of a passion fruit pungency. I mean, you might get the impression of a little bit of apricot out of this beer as well, you know, maybe even a little bit of like papaya or something, and it does, as I say, have that kind of yogurty type quality to it. But you know, it's a beautiful smelling beer, this one. Take a little bit of time just to ponder that over, but I think it's about time that we taste this beer. I'm very curious to see what this has in store for us. So yeah, this one is the Tropic Tropic Thunder Thunder, a 9% Imperial Sour with mango, passion fruit and peach from Brewery in Landvetter, just outside of Gothenburg here in Sweden, and it's Stillwater Artisinal, a gypsy brewery, finding the roots in Baltimore in Maryland over in the States. Let's get stuck in. Slange, skull, cheers. Ooh, that is pretty nice actually. So, not surprised, but yeah, I like this one for sure. Yeah, the flavour in this beer is really nice. You can feel the booziness in this one, and it's definitely not quite as light and drinkable as the original one, but then again, you know, obviously it's an Imperial Sour, stating the obvious here. But yeah, it's still a really, really nice beer, this one. I like how it goes about its business. Yeah. I've not had, I mean, this is a style, in honesty, like Imperial fruit sours, I have to kind of explore this a little bit more, because I've not really, you know, I haven't really delved into this style too much. But then again, you don't see that many of them around, to be honest with you. Most of the breweries here in Sweden are doing, you know, sort of 5 and 6%ers, so an Imperial sour like this is a bit of a kind of anomaly almost. But yeah, it's lovely. It really is good. So yeah, where to start with this one then? The flavour of this beer is actually quite similar to what you'd expect from the aroma. So yeah, straight away with this beer then. Middle third of your palate, you can feel that nice, soft, white bready backbone there. That just goes right across the middle of your palate. You can feel that as you go further into the flavour with this one, it just kind of thickens up a little bit. And it does, I think it's the yeast that's doing this. I think there's maybe a bit of almost doughiness to the yeast. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a bit of a mixed culture or something like this. Or it says lactobacillus, but I do wonder, just from the breadiness and stuff that you get out of this beer, you can feel there's almost a little bit of a yeasty, doughy kind of thing going on, which is interesting. So it could, they could have used a slightly breadier malt, like Munich malt or something like this. I don't know, but it does. This beer just feels a little bit yeasty in the middle third of your palate. It doesn't feel as if it's only lactobacillus in this one. It does feel as if there's just something a wee bit more, but yeah, it could, obviously, if it's an Imperial sour as well. The other thing to remember is that it will inherently have more malt content in it to give you more sugars, but if it's got more fruit in it as well, then you've got more natural sugars in there. So yeah, that's an interesting point to make about this beer, for sure. So yeah, the malty base, as I say, you will get the impression of a little bit of a graininess. I think the further you go into the aftertaste, there is a wee bit of an almost wholemeally bready sort of thing comes out. If you go to the front corners of your palate, then diagonally back, you will get a little touch of a more kind of grainy, bready sort of thing coming out of the beer. So I like that about it for sure. But yeah, it's kind of interesting, this one. I think if I was tasting this one blind, I actually would have guessed that this beer had a little bit of oat and wheat in it, but very minimal amounts, to be honest, because it still gives you, you'll feel in the middle of your palate that a little bit of that kind of yogurty quality does develop, and you do get almost a little, in the very centre of your tongue, you do get a very slight sort of Werther's Original butter candy sort of thing. There is a nice little bit of that in coming out of the middle of the palate there too, which I really like. But yeah, in that border region between middle third and back third of your palate, it's got a nice little bit of a thicker yeasty sort of thing. There's a little touch of bread crusty quality, but then on the back third of your palate, you can feel more. It feels like it's a bready yeasty quality. You can feel the barley malt kind of quality sitting underneath, but you can feel it's a little bit thicker on that back third of your palate too. So there's quite a bit of interest. There's quite an interesting character to this beer. Let's just say that this beer's doing some really interesting things, I would say. So yeah, I think this one goes together really nicely. So definitely a thumbs up to Dougus Brewery for how this beer goes about its business. I like this one for sure. So yeah, the malty yeasty side of things is pretty nice, and as I say, it does sweeten up a little bit. So back third of your palate feels a bit thicker and more yeasty. As you move further forward, drops away, then in the middle third of your palate you've got that soft bready note, a little bit of a yogurty quality in there, and then just a wee touch of a kind of butter candy sort of thing, Werther's Original, but that's the booziness of the beer for sure. But anyway, on the green side of things, as I say, there's no hops in this beer, but in the back corners of your palate you do get the impression of a little touch of earthiness. As you move further forward, it does just feel like slightly smooth, but then as you reach the front corners of the palate, there's a teeny little bit of a slightly floral type vibe there, but around the front curve of the palate it does feel a little bit more sort of grassy for sure. But yeah, remember this beer has fruits in it added as adjuncts, and when it comes to fruits being added as adjuncts into beer, what they always do if the beer has hops, they always suppress a little bit of the green component of the beer. But yeah, you do get some nice fruity qualities just around the very edge of your tongue as well. So let's focus on that whole fruity part of the beer. So the front third of your palate, that's normally where you get that oily bubble, where those fruity esters will roll their way out of the hops. But yeah, on that border region between front and middle third of your palate, you can feel it's a little bit more kind of thick and yeasty in that sense. You do get a little bit of that there, and then the backbone of that front third of your palate is more of a, yeah, it is a little bit more of a kind of smooth, It's got a little bit of a more kind of smooth, bready, yeasty sort of thing too, so I like that. But yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate, you can detect a little bit more of the kind of stronger passion fruity flavours, but as you move kind of further forward, it does develop that more kind of mango-y note, and like I said earlier, the mango really interacts with the kind of malty side of the beer and the yeast, I think, as well, and gives you that almost yogurty impression. And then almost on the very tip of the tongue, you've got that nice kind of peachy sharpness, which I really like. So yeah, it's interesting how that side of things goes about its business. So yeah, definitely peach on the very front of the palate. The mango sort of taking up the most of the area on that front third of your tongue, and then it's a little bit more kind of passion fruity at the back of the tongue too. So yeah, I certainly like how this whole beer goes about its business. Around the front edge of the tongue, I think the peachy sharpness gives you a little bit of the thing that you do get a little bit of that kind of citricy, grassy sort of edge to the beer, which I really like as well. So yeah, the whole vibe about this beer, I think, is very, very nice actually. I really like how this one goes about its thing. So yeah, this whole beer for me, it's quite a straight shooting one, and as I said earlier, I find a lot of these modern sour beers to be very straight shooting, but it works, it really does work. And this is another lovely beer from Dugas. I wouldn't expect anything less of them, and Stillwater of course are obviously very well versed in these kind of big sour beers as well. So I think what I need to do when it comes to reviewing more Stillwater beers in the future is to try and get a few more Imperial sours actually. So I think that's a good plan of action for this, to be honest. So yeah, I really like how all of this goes about its business. Lovely beer this, and I think it's definitely worth trying if you get the chance to. And hopefully, I would like to see them do this again and play around with this, but Tropic Thunder is a Swedish classic, and I think they've done really nicely with this. I might need to get another bottle of this and do a side-by-side with the original Tropic Thunder and this one if it's possible, but I've got so much beer just now I don't know if I'll get round to that, but that would be a cool video actually. But anyway, I think that covers the flavour profile of the beer quite nicely. Let's round off the review with the mouthfeel. So yeah, for me then, this beer, it is quite mid-bodied, I would say. I would say it's at the bottom end of mid-bodied. It's incredibly drinkable for a 9%er, to be honest with you. I can feel the warmth down here, but it's just incredibly drinkable in the mouth. But yeah, the mouthfeel overall I would say is very smooth, even though it had all that carbonation coming out of it at the start. But it's actually a very slick beer as well. The malty side of things, again is a bit smooth, and it does thicken up a wee bit. There's a degree of sweetness in there too. There's no hoppy bitterness to this beer. I think from a technical perspective, it would be 0 IBUs, but maybe there's 4 or 5 IBUs in there, and then you've got some really nice juicy fruity notes to it as well. This beer isn't really, it's almost not sour at all. I mean, it's not even got a little bit of a puckering element to it. So yeah, there's just a little bit of a fruitiness. There's just a little bit of sourness to this beer, but I think overall it rolls out to be a nice kind of juicy sort of thing. So yeah, I like this one for sure. So yeah, I have to say, big thumbs up to Dugas Brewery for this one. This was a really nice beer. It's been a while actually since I've had a sour from Dugas Brewery, and I think this one kind of shows me I need to maybe think about getting a few more of the Dugas sours when they release them. But you will see me review the orange in a little while, so you can look forward to that. But in the meantime, 2 more West Coast IPAs from them too. But yeah, I think that rounds off this review quite nicely. Lovely juicy fruits, just a little bit of sourness, and a very smooth, easy drinking sour, even though it's a 9% Imperial sour. So thumbs up to both Dugas and Artisinal, and Stillwater Artisinal, sorry, for this one. Lovely beer, and I'm glad I got the chance to review this one here on the channel as well. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are. from Stillwater, Artisinal, and from Dugas Brewery, of course, and we will return to both of these breweries at some point in the near future. But this one was the Tropic Tropic Thunder 9% Imperial Fruit Sour with mango, passion fruit, and peach in it from Dugas Brewery in Landvetter, just outside of Gothenburg here in Sweden, and Stillwater Artisinal, who originally hail from Baltimore in Maryland over in the eastern United States. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Check out my social media, check out both of these breweries. Let me know your own thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.